So now that's actually what we had to do for the data access layer, and that's all in there now as code for actually making this address available. Moving into the business logic layer, where we of course also had to make some changes. So the first thing I did was I add the address business object under business entities or business objects. Here we go. Again, ID, street, name, and city, number and city for the address. Good. What else did we have to do? Well, the customer business object also had to change a bit, because actually now I need to have a list of address business objects on my customer business object, right? So now that is available. That's to kind of again make the relation between these two. What else do we need? Well, we need the address converter, just like we have the customer converter, to get back and forth between entities and business objects, right? And we also need to change the customer converter to actually use the address converter to convert the addresses when we convert a customer. Makes sense. We might go and change this later when we start getting IDs later in a later lesson, but let's do that later on. Good. Scrolling down, what else do we have? We have to make a new address service as well. Again, it's pretty much, it has an interface like we did before, and then it implements the create, get all, get, update, and delete for an address right here. There we go. So that's the address service, and again, it's just like the customer service, the order service we built earlier. So nothing new there. The customer service also has to now, in the update at least, it has to change a bit as well, because in the update we actually have to now work with addresses as well down here. So I also made a few changes down there. Here we go. I think that's pretty much it. The last thing is the business logic facade, because that needs to give access point to the address service. Yes, it does. And then if we go down to the startup file right here, I added so that we can now have an address. So I created an address right here. Let me just remove the breakpoint. I have an address right here that I use through the address service, and I add that address to the customer when I create a customer business object. There we go. That's all I had to do. Let's try and start this. Now, this was a lot of code changes, you can see that, but it took me around 20 minutes to do all of this, and it's something you have to do every time you make a new entity, and that'll only be in the startup phase when you build this project. That'll be the only time where you actually add new entities. We're going to break down right now, and that's okay. That was actually the goal of this lesson, was to show you that we're going to get an exception. The reason is that we cannot do many-to-many relations right now in this, the way I'm doing it right now. It will pop up and say something like, there we go, an item with the same key has already been defined. And actually the problem here, let me try and go to the problem. If you go down to the call stack, down here in the corner, you can actually try and find the problem by going through the calls. It seems the problem happened in line 25 in the unit of work. I can go back one level to the service. This is actually what called the unit of work right here in line 26 in the customer service, right? I can go one step further back, and I'll see this is actually where the actual problem started, because I tried to create a customer business object with the address, and because the setup is not correct right now with the many-to-many relation, we explode because it tries to create the address again with the same ID of 1. So it says you cannot create an address again with ID 1, boom, it explodes. We'll fix this in the next couple of lessons, but now you kind of just know all I did was add the address entity and populate it all the way through our entire system. And again, it took me around 20 minutes. You can probably do it faster than me. So see you next time where we'll start fixing this issue.